COVID-19 has forced us to experience change and loss. There are different types of change that we've had to experience. There's continuous change, which develops out of what has gone before and as a result can be expected, anticipated, and managed. I'll give you an example of this. Marriage, raising children. It's a stage of life. Many people have been married before us and have raised children, and so there's a certain amount of experiences and skill that have been acquired through experience. And so we can draw from that in continuous change. It's expected. But there's another kind of change that's very, very disorienting. It's discontinuous change. Discontinuous change is different than continuous change because discontinuous change is disruptive and unanticipated. It creates situations that challenge all of our assumptions, and our past experiences and skills are not as helpful in this kind of change because we need new skills. So there's continuous change and discontinuous change. But change itself, well, regardless of what kind of change is followed by transition and involves loss. Change and transition are quite different. They're often confused, but they're different. Change is event or outcome oriented. Change can be chosen or it can be forced on you. But transition is different than change because transition is psychological. It's not event or outcome oriented. It's psychological. It's a process. Transition is the process of response that we as people have to go through as we internalize and come to terms with the details of the change. When you get married, you have to internalize and come to terms with the fact that you no longer are just one person that you're thinking about. You're no longer able to go out at night at all hours of the night. This is psychological. That's transition. It's the process of response that people have to go through as they internalize and come to terms with the details of the change. Now, transition has three kind of phases that we have to go through as we're processing this. First of all, we have to let go of the old ways and the old identity that we had. We have to go through an in-between time when the old is gone but the new is not fully functional. And then we have to come out of the transition and make a new beginning as we make sense of the change and our resultant transition. So transition is a process. It's a psychological process. But then when we have gone through the transition, we have to identify our losses because as we're going through change and transition, there's a lot of losses. We have the losses of loss of control. We have loss of status. We have loss of freedom and independence. We have sometimes, for some of us, physical losses. So how do we cope with all of this? Especially during this COVID-19 season. How do we cope with change and loss? Well, first of all, what we have to do is identify the change and losses, i.e. confront our new reality. We have to grieve our losses. And grieving our losses is acknowledging the pain of what we've lost. And the purpose of grieving these losses is to get beyond our knee-jerk reaction so that we can face our losses and work on adapting them and eventually make the necessary adjustments so you can live with your loss in a positive way. But another way that we cope with change and the resultant loss is that we have to adjust to the loss now and move beyond our grief. And that involves being open to learning new skills and acquiring new skills and new assumptions and asking for help to adapt to this new reality. And last of all, it entails our daily confession of fear and concern in our quiet times with God, and depending on Him in prayer and devotion and worship to say, you are my rest, you are my hope, that when everything else is changing around me, you shall not change, for you are my rock. I hope this will be helpful to you. The Lord bless you and keep you.